Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. What if we could take all the gold that humanity has ever mined from all of history and melt it down into one single giant cube? It would be huge, for sure, but maybe not as big as you'd think. So, how did this one kind of rare, shiny metal end up pretty much ruling our world? I mean, just look at the price today. Gold recently hit record highs, around $2,400 for a single ounce. You've got governments, big investors, they're all on a massive buying spree. It really feels like gold is making a huge comeback. But the truth is, it never really went away. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why? Why does this shiny and, let's be honest, mostly useless metal have such a deep, powerful grip on our civilization? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at a series of huge psychological leaps that we, as a species, took over thousands of years. We're going to trace its whole journey through 6 key stages. We'll start with its cosmic origins, literally as stardust, and then see how we invented the idea of it being money. Then we'll get into the crazy greed it inspired, the clever jump to paper, and finally, the biggest leap of all, to a system of pure belief. And all of that will help us see why it still shines so bright in our world today. So believe it or not, this all starts in space. Yep, almost all the gold on our planet actually got here on asteroids. They were carrying the debris from ancient exploding stars. So when the first humans found these little flecks of stardust in riverbeds, they were just captivated. It was shiny and yellow, kind of like the sun. It was super dense, but also soft enough to shape. And here's the kicker. It didn't rust, it didn't tarnish, it was incorruptible, almost eternal. And if you look at how we use gold today, you'll find a massive clue about its real power. Okay, so almost half is for jewelry. A small sliver, about 15%, is actually used in industry, for things like electronics. But look at that other huge piece. A full 40% of all the gold ever mined is just sitting in vaults. It's doing nothing. It's not being used, it's being held. And that right there is the key. See, as our societies got bigger and more complex, direct trade, barter, it just wasn't working anymore. This led to one of the biggest ideas we ever came up with: money. We needed something, some common medium of exchange that everyone, everywhere, would agree to accept. Early on, we tried using useful things. Cattle, for instance, were a pretty common form of money. But, cows, they have some issues. They eventually die, and you can't exactly slice one in half if you need to make change. So we landed on something way better: that shiny metal from the rivers. It was durable, you could divide it up easily, and you could actually carry it around. And this, right here, is the most crucial part of the whole story. Gold doesn't feed you, it doesn't keep you warm. Its practical uses are tiny. It only became money when we all added this powerful, uniquely human ingredient: collective belief. Gold is valuable simply because we all agree that it's valuable. That shared story is the foundation of our entire economic world. Now, once that collective belief really took hold, it unleashed a pretty powerful and, frankly, dark side of human nature. This abstract idea of wealth was suddenly a physical object you could hold in your hand, and the desire for it, well, it turned into a fever that just swept across the globe. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? When the Spanish conquistadors got to the Americas, they found civilizations like the Aztecs, who used gold for worship, for decoration. But the Spanish, they saw something totally different. They saw pure economic power. They massacred entire cultures, melted down priceless sacred artifacts into uniform little coins, and shipped them back to Europe to fuel an imperial race for more. And this fever wasn't just for empires. Nope. It intoxicated ordinary people. I mean, from the California 49ers to the frozen fields of the Yukon to the deep mines of South Africa. People risked absolutely everything. They moved across entire continents, all chasing this dream of striking it rich. Gold fever didn't just move markets, it moved whole populations. And of course, all that newly mined gold created a brand new problem. Carrying it around was super dangerous and just wildly impractical. So that led to our next big psychological leap. Instead of lugging around the heavy metal, we invented an even more abstract form of value: paper money. We started to trust a promise instead of the gold itself. And that's basically what the gold standard was. A banknote wasn't actually money on its own. It was an IOU. It was like a claim check, a piece of paper that said, I am good for a specific amount of real gold that's being held safely in a bank vault. And as long as you trusted that the bank would honor that promise, the paper worked just as well as the metal. And that brings us right up to our most recent and maybe the most radical leap of all. We decided to just get rid of the gold backing completely. This is the age of fiat money. That's money that has value simply because a government says it does. It's a system based not on a physical thing, but on pure, unadulterated trust in our institutions. Now, this didn't happen overnight. After a bunch of financial panics, the US created the Federal Reserve to try and stabilize things. Then, during the Great Depression, being tied to gold was like being in an economic straitjacket. It really limited what the government could do to fight the crisis. So FDR started cutting that link. But the final cut came in 1971, when President Nixon officially took the entire world off the gold standard, giving governments way more flexibility to manage their economies.
So let's just break this down. Here's the real difference. Gold-backed money gets its value from a physical thing that's naturally scarce. Fiat money, which just means by decree, gets its value from our trust in institutions that can, in theory, print an infinite amount of it. It was a huge shift from trusting nature to trusting people.
So, if our whole modern economy is built on this system of pure trust, why are people suddenly rushing back to buy gold again? This is where our story comes full circle. It turns out that despite all of these incredible mental leaps we've made, when our modern system of belief starts to feel a little shaky, we humans have this powerful instinct to go back to something real, something tangible. And that is gold's modern role. It's a hedge. It's an insurance policy. It's an asset that exists completely outside the control of any single government or any central bank. So when people start to worry about inflation eating away at their paper money or about wars and political instability, they turn back to that shiny, incorruptible metal that's held its value for thousands of years. And you can see exactly who's driving this demand right now. It's not just regular investors who are worried about inflation. You've got central banks, especially in places like Russia and China, buying up tons of gold to rely less on the US dollar. Geopolitical risk is pushing everybody back towards something tangible. This isn't a history lesson. This is today's headline. And so all of this leaves us with one last, really fascinating question. The entire story of money is just a story of collective belief. We went from cows to stardust to paper promises to pure trust in our institutions. As that trust gets tested today, it forces us to ask, what's next? Will we go back to an ancient metal? Or will our next psychological leap take us somewhere else entirely? Maybe to digital assets like Bitcoin. The only thing that seems certain is that our search for something we can all trust to hold value is as eternal as gold itself.